name is Dawn Drake, and I'm a retired English teacher, and I thought that I would try to use the Chat GPT Voice with the new live updates with an interesting application of role play with a famous author. So I'll read the disclaimer first before we get started. So this interview that you are about to hear is a creative simulation. Because we cannot speak with the legendary Ray Bradbury today, I'm using advanced AI voice technology to role play this conversation. The responses that you hear are an artificial intelligence mimicking his distinct style, philosophy, and historical interviews. Think of this as an imaginative what-if scenario designed to explore the deep themes of Dandelion Wine in a completely unique way. So with that, we'll get started with our interview. Today, I have the absolute privilege of speaking with one of the most imaginative and celebrated voices in American literature. He is a recipient of the National Medal of Arts, a Pulitzer Prize Special Citation, and an Emmy Award. Over a career spanning more than 6 decades, he has reshaped the landscape of speculative fiction, magical realism, and fantasy through timeless masterpieces like Fahrenheit 451, The Martian Chronicles, and The Illustrated Man. But today, we are going to step away from the distant future and rocket summer to look inward at the golden, nostalgic streets of Greentown, Illinois. We are diving deep into his deeply personal, fiercely poetic 1957 novel about memory, youth, and mortality. Please welcome the legendary Ray Bradbury. Okay, Ray, so your novel Dandelion Wine is set in a town called Greentown, Illinois, and it's notoriously a stand-in for your own hometown of Waukegan. And so your main character, Douglas Spalding, realizing he's alive, awakening from his childhood. And so just give us a little flavor of the inspiration for this book, Greentown, and also the main metaphor that you chose for the book, Dandelion Wine. So just kind of begin with the origins, the roots and so forth of where you came up with this idea for the book.
Greentown is certainly Waukegan, yes, but polished by memory until it shines. I gathered the small miracles of my boyhood, fireflies, ravines, screen doors, and made a town where all of that could live forever. Douglas's I am alive moment, that's the heart. It's an electric jolt, a sudden current. Life stops being background noise and becomes a gift. And the wine? Dandelion Wine is time bottled. A June day corked and saved against the cold. You open it years later and summer breathes again. That's what I wanted the book to be, a shelf of bottled days, so none of it slips away.
It really is just a perfect novel for summer. And here we are right in the middle of summer in the Midwest. It's the end of July, the humidity, and all of the smells, sights, and sounds. And speaking of that sensory detail, the book is famous for its rich description of smells, sounds, tastes, like a ritual of making the wine, of course. Why was it so vital for you to ground a book with memory and physical sensory sensations, excuse me?
Yeah. Because the senses are the roots of thought. Before we have philosophies, we have the smell of cut grass, and that's where childhood lives. I wanted readers to step into a remembered world, not just observe it. The ritual of making the wine is almost a sacrament, capturing a day, its heat, its light, its laughter, so you can taste it again later. If a book could do that, if it could call back your own summers, then I felt I'd done something true.
You certainly did. And so exploring the themes of this novel, before we do that, I'd like to ask you about the structure, actually, because that was one of the things when I was teaching this novel to the students that they found challenging due to the fact that it's not set up in the normal structure of a novel. So could you explain the structure first, and then we'll talk about the themes?
That's a fair point. Dandelion Wine isn't built like a neat little plot machine. It's more like a quilt or a mosaic, moments stitched together to make a whole summer. Childhood doesn't arrive as a three-act plot. It comes as a series of vivid afternoons, each complete, and only later do you see the pattern. So that episodic structure is the point. It's meant to be lived in, not rushed through. I hoped you'd read it as a season to inhabit, not a puzzle to solve. Unity isn't plot-driven, it's thematic. Wonder, time, and the awakening spirit.
And I love that you included another metaphor for your explanation, which is describing it as a quilt. And I'd never heard anybody refer to it that way before, but it is really a beautiful tapestry. And so that's a beautiful way to explain the structure. And so let's move on to some of the themes. And one of my favorites was the chapter, there was actually more than one chapter with this, which was the happiness machine with Leo Hoffman and his invention. So could you kind of summarize that for us and explain what you were trying to capture with that?
The happiness machine, yes. That story asks, can joy be manufactured? Leo thinks if he can engineer bliss, he can hand out happiness like candy. But the machine only throws people back on their own longings, their sorrows. And he learns what matters isn't a contraption, it's the everyday porch swing moments. Happiness isn't a gadget or a destination, it's right there in the daily weather of your life. Funny thing, Douglas had been finding it all summer without a machine at all.
Yes, but you're not saying that you think that all technology is evil or wrong or anything. So sometimes I think about the happiness machine as Ray's prediction about what would happen with television. But what are your thoughts on that?
No, not evil. Just worth questioning. Tools aren't villains, they're mirrors, sometimes magnifying glasses. With television, as with any invention, the question isn't, is it evil, but are we using it to live more fully or to avoid living? The worry is substitution, watching life instead of living it. So don't fear the machine, just don't hand it your heartbeat. Let it serve the life you're already tasting. Never replace it. The heart has no spare parts.
True, true. So one of the darker chapters of the novel is, of course, the lonely one. And that was one that my students found intriguing, the dark, scary side of life. And so could you elaborate a little bit about this chapter and what sparked you to include a chapter in such a nostalgic novel about the lonely one?
Even in the golden light, shadows fall, and kids know that keenly. The lonely one is the moment childhood brushes up against the dark, the unknown. It's frightening, yes, but it's also part of the truth. Innocence and awareness growing side by side. I didn't want a sugar summer. Kids learn courage not by the absence of shadows, but by walking through them. The lonely one isn't just a person, it's the shape of the unknown. Naming it gives you a little light to carry.
Yes, one of the scenes that stood out to me, due to the fact that I'm a mother, was the scene where Douglas's mother could not find him. He didn't come home at dark like he was supposed to, and she was out searching for him. And his younger brother was noticing that his mother had fear. He had never seen that in his mother before, that she was demonstrating fear in not knowing where her son was. Of course, it turned out happily at the end of that chapter because Douglas was found and he was safe and sound, but it was that universal feeling where a parent has fear and a child recognizes. So could you comment on that?
That moment matters. A child seeing their parents' fear for the first time. It's like a curtain pulled back. The invincible grown-up is suddenly human, loving, and therefore vulnerable. That's another kind of awakening. discovering that love carries risk and worry is love's shadow. When Douglas comes home safe, the relief is so profound precisely because of that. We remember it so vividly because it's how we learn, not just who we are, but who loves us and what that love costs them. That's a moment that stays.
And finally, I wanted to bring up the theme of aging and the time machine with Colonel Freely, and there was also other elderly members or characters in the book, Helen Loomis, Douglas's grandfather, and some others. And so I wanted you to comment on aging and the time machine and all of the themes that surround that metaphor.
Time is the trickster, isn't it? With Colonel Freely, I wanted to show that elders carry whole worlds in their voices. They're living libraries, time machines. When you lose them, you lose irreplaceable volumes. But aging isn't only loss, it's accumulated treasure. Helen Loomis reminds us that the soul stays young, that love can bridge years. Grandfather shows a quiet wisdom of just living gratefully. And the children, well, they're standing on tiptoe, trying to see both directions, forward and back. Maybe the gift is passing stories hand to hand, so time feels less like a thief and more like a river we're all traveling down.
So, Ray, did you have a favorite chapter that you wrote in Dandelion Wine? Or are they all special to you, or just anything that stood out that was your favorite?
Oh, that's a bit like asking for a favorite child. If pressed, I'd say Douglas's awakening holds a special spark, because that heartbeat set everything else in motion. But really, the joy was in bottling the days, writing each little moment before it slipped away. Colonel Freely's stories, the winemaking, those stay close. More than a favorite, I hope readers finish the book and look around their own lives and say, there it is, the extraordinary tucked inside the ordinary.
Fabulous. Well, I very much enjoyed speaking with you today, Ray, and I just found that your novel just stuck with me all these years, and it just has a special place in my heart, and such an inspiration. So I appreciate all of your contributions to the arts and to the community, and I just I hope that others will find an appreciation for your work as well. And as a teacher, of course, that is my main goal, is to try to share my favorites with others, and you are one of the favorites. And so again, I want to thank you so much, and it's just been an absolutely magical conversation with you, and I thank you for taking the time for us to sit on the front porch of Greentown, Illinois, reminding us of what it truly means to be alive. And so thank you again, Ray Bradbury.
Thank you. That means a great deal. Stories only live if someone carries them. Teachers are the keepers of that flame. I'm glad if those pages found a home with you and with your students. Keep noticing the small miracles, the smell of rain, the sound of crickets, the laughter next door. That's where the happiness machine was hiding all along. It's been a pleasure to sit on the porch with you.
Thank you, Ray.